Yeah, what's up, guys? Lockdown day 38, and we're nearing the Mark 40 date. And I think we need to celebrate this today by talking about how the leaders are getting on in the West. And obviously, we're going to have a look at Gangs of London, which my boys, you were holding out on me yesterday, actually talking about on my WhatsApp chat. Everybody started talking about it. I was like, hold on, am I the only one not watching this show? So last night I spent the time to watch the premiere first episode, which goes for about an hour and a half, of Gangs of London. So let me talk about that first. So Gangs of London, guys, is very, very high production values. The cinematography, in my opinion, is up there with the best in British programming. Now, I've said Steve Moffat's work, the work he's done obviously on Doctor Who Torchwood, has been really good. The work he's done on Sherlock Holmes, in my opinion, is some of the best BBC can offer in British television. Of course, Benedict Cumberbatch, the way that that's been written over a series of seasons has just been brilliant. It's really, for me, the pinnacle of British television making. And this kind of tops it all. I have never seen a series with that amount of thought process. The camera shots were it almost looks like a movie. It almost looks like you're watching a film. If this was to be paid and watched at the cinema, I would think nothing short of being satisfied by the production values. It's really high. The fight scenes, obviously directed and created by Gareth Evans, which is straight out of The Raid and Raid 2. So you know that the fight scenes are going to be top notch. And that's really what grasped me. I was like, yeah, okay, this is a decent drama. It's a deep story. And when I saw the fighting, I was like, whoa. I was like, okay then, pull up a chair. This is happy days now. We're getting serious. Now you've got me hooked. So overall, in the series, what happens is this is really about a crime syndicate, which is the Wallaces, and they are at the heart of the criminality in London, and every criminal organisation is kind of connected to them. And the show's opening minutes, you see Wallace, who's played by Cole Meany. Remember Chief O'Brien from Deep Space Nine, Star Trek? Yeah, I know, he's in it for like 2 minutes. And he's the one that perishes in the first 5 minutes. And it really centers around these crime bosses' heads rolling, because what are they going to do? This guy who held everything up, all the operations, is now gone. And his younger son, Sean, is in charge to try and patch everything together. And this guy, you know, he's young, he's brash, he's not cool, he's everything his dad wasn't. Yeah, his dad was kind of the head that kept everything calm among the triads. And this guy is nothing like that. This guy wants heads to roll. He wants to shoot first before asking questions. And it's not notoriously how the gangs kind of work. And we center on a guy called Elliot, who's actually connected to nothing. This guy, everyone turns around and says, who the hell are you? Who the hell are you? And he's just like, yeah, don't worry, I was sent here by blah, blah, blah. So he's kind of just filtered into this. So the first episode shows that he's not exactly who he says he is. And I wait for you guys to watch that so that you can see how that plays out. But it shows so many sides of this, and it really is like Game of Thrones production values. It really is that strong. I mean, this is like Game of Thrones without the dragons. It's got a lot of actors from Game of Thrones. I counted about 4 or 5 of them who featured in the Game of Thrones itself. So the acting chops is solid. It kind of complies that there's a war that is building up in London that nobody can control. The crime sages start to lose their rag and heads start to roll, and the whole thing capitulates into this free-for-all. And I really want to know where the show goes, because after the first episode, there's so many angles that this show can come from, but the fighting scenes are top-notch. Wow, guys. And so I really want you guys to check it out. Really high volumes. I mean, for the first episode, the pilot, I'd probably give it a 9.2 out of 10. I really do like it. The only weak part about it, I thought, was the score. I thought the music didn't really carry the emotion in the show, and that's something that might be improved in later episodes. And I know I'm going to watch another 2 tonight after I finish editing this video. But I'm really hoping it's going to build up to a strong climax, and I think it has. My group on WhatsApp is saying it's the bee's knees. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So big shout out to you guys, Kez, Mervyn, Storm, Rox. Big shout out to you guys. And Jay, thanks Spitfire, thanks for the recommendation on that. So I really want to talk about now how the leaders are getting on. So the leaders, let's take, for instance, Boris Johnson. The Prime Minister returned to work yesterday, fresh from his partner giving birth to a baby boy, and he used his presser to warn the UK about the infection rates. And while they're still falling, the government's top scientists have warned that easing up on restrictions is still at a very high risk. So I think the words we're hearing from him now in terms of extending furlough, extending lockdown, all of that means is that he still has his foot on the brake. And that's a really good thing to see. And remember, listen, I just want to say I'm not the biggest Boris Johnson fan, but he's got his foot on the brake, and we're going to see this thing really flow into June and the end of June, because we started seeing them rates drop down from 900, 800 to 300, 400, but yesterday 900. So that's just giving us a little kick in the backside to say, whoa, okay, if you start to ease off, yeah, it's going to do this. Yeah, so I think the UK are taking that approach, because people are talking about looking at mobile phone signals and things like that, cell sites, and there is proof that activity outside the home is starting to increase. It might only be 5 or 10%, but it just means people are starting to get a little bit restless. However, in the UK, I think people have done really well in order to forfeit the social distancing rules. In America, though, not really the same, although I must stress this is about just their leader. The poll came out yesterday who would handle it much better. 55% of people said Joe Biden, and only 40% said the president. And not only that, but again, they're talking about without further testing, is it a good idea to? And listen, let's remember that this is a state, this is a country where some of the protesters are gagging to get back to work. But I only think that that is the business side of it. Because when you look at these poll numbers, it shows actually that people who are at home, who are doing what they're supposed to be doing, are being sensible. So let's look at this then. Return to work. They asked people whether you would want to return to work or not. 32% said they would, and 65% said it's a bad idea. Who would go into restaurants again? Yeah, who would want to go in and dine in restaurants? 19% said they would. Over 80% said no freaking way. Yeah? Reopening the schools. So we've been hearing that there's been a lot of children that have been suffering. Remember when they said doesn't affect young children? Yeah, that lasted about a couple of weeks, didn't it? Until we started to see young children and teenagers really started to get affected by this. And listen to this, 14% of people said reopen schools. 85% said it was a bad idea. We know that everything in terms of our communities is driven by sports and entertainment, cinema, again, NBA, NFL, Premier League football, rugby, cricket, everything, you name it. And it's said now that to attend large sporting events, only 8% said that they would do that. 91% of people said hell to the freaking no. Yeah? That is a hell no. So it just goes to show, in America, while you've got these people in the White House making these dumb decisions, the actual people who live in America, the majority, are actually saying, no, we're not going to do that. We want to stay at home. We want to continue to be locked down. So we've got this big disparity now where, again, I think these protesters were all business people who were looking to suffer losses, great losses. I think they were the ones that were out marching. So if they're going to go up and start to open up, guess what? They're going to be greeted with empty seats, because the majority of people are saying they are going to stay at home. And we're talking about this being the new norm. We're already seeing airlines and places like Sainsbury's saying long queues and masks are going to be mandatory now. Yeah. So imagine if you're going on a flight, you're going to have to use a mask. They will not let you on a plane without one. And I think we're going to see people like Virgin Airlines use masks in their packet. You know, they give you that packet with the sleep mask and the toothbrush and the toothpaste and all that stuff. I think we're going to see masks in there as well. They're just not going to let you on a plane without it. And that's that. So I think looking at that overall, guys, I think we're starting to see what normality looks like and what the new life beyond Corona is going to be. People are just going to be very wary of everybody else and social distancing. So listen, that's all from me tonight, guys. I'm going to go and enjoy my recording. I'm gonna enjoy my recording, and I'm going to sit down and watch Gangs of London tonight and try and soak up all that great television because I've got tomorrow off. So listen, that's it from me, guys. Hashtag stay home, hashtag with me, and I'm out.